Welcome to Gamespot Live. I'm Greg Kasavin, here to tell you all about Shinobi for the PlayStation 2. Shinobi is, of course, inspired by Sega's arcade classic and some of its sequels, such as the famous Revenge of Shinobi for the Genesis. But it really doesn't have a lot in common with those old games, aside from the fact that it's a game about a ninja, and it's got lots of action in it. Shinobi features an entirely new story and original play mechanics and lots of challenge. Above all, it's just a really hard game. It's the sort of game that'll make you wonder whether you're still good at games. Even if you're really experienced, you're just going to have a lot of trouble with some of the levels because the game's difficulty can be pretty darn punishing. But at the same time, the responsive controls and the fun mechanics make Shinobi a game that will be quite enjoyable for some people. It can really be pretty satisfying. Basically, the game consists of a series of rather lengthy linear levels that are swarming with enemies. This isn't a game about stealth. It's a game about really going toe-to-toe with your enemies and cutting them all down. Hotsuma, the game's main character, fights primarily with a sword. It's actually a cursed sword, and early on into the game, you find out what the curse entails. Basically, the sword needs to constantly drain the life energies of the victims that it slays. You'll see kind of a red meter on the screen that constantly dwindles down but fills back up as you kill enemies and absorb their souls. If this meter should run out, the sword actually starts sucking your own life energy away. So basically, the game is on a timer, and if you don't move fast and keep killing people, you're going to die yourself. On the bright side, the curse makes it so that the sword is really powerful, and the game has this interesting mechanic in it that encourages you to kind of defeat foes in rapid succession. You'll have an indicator showing how many foes are in the area at a given time, and the more of them you defeat one after another, the stronger your sword gets. The catch is that you have to keep fighting. You have to keep slaying foes, because if you don't kill one for a couple of seconds, then your sword will lose its power. In addition to the main levels of the game, Shinobi is actually packed with boss fights pretty much at the end of every level. Some of these can be really quite challenging and force you to use this whole combo mechanic quite a bit. You'll be fighting these boss monsters that spawn in lots of smaller foes, and as you cut these down and power up your sword, you can deal huge damage to the bosses if you time things properly, and you can even defeat them in a single hit if you're really skillful. Shinobi has a lot of other cool play mechanics in it. You can jump and double jump. The jumping mechanics are really responsive, and you can also execute this stealth dash maneuver, which you can use either to work your way behind foes and hit them where they're vulnerable, or to gain more distance in midair. It's kind of a cool little technique and keeps the pacing of the game nice and fast. Hotsuma can even run alongside completely vertical surfaces, at least some of them. And some of the game's coolest parts are where you'll be running not along the ground, but along the sides of things like skyscrapers and jumping from one to the other with certain death down below. You constantly have to stay not on the ground, but on the sides of things, and that's really quite original and makes some sequences of Shinobi rather unique. Offhand, the game's levels look pretty monotonous. They're all kind of right angles and flat surfaces. They look like they were thrown together pretty quickly, actually, and that's one of the sort of disappointing aspects of the game. Then again, as the game proceeds, you'll find that it really starts to force you to master some of the individual mechanics and then put everything together. You'll find that the game actually has a rather deep learning curve and really encourages skill. So, whereas you might get through the first couple of stages by button mashing and kind of just hacking away at everything that gets in front of you, soon enough you'll be fighting foes that basically deflect every attack from the front, and you'll have to maneuver behind them and kind of wall jump and wall run and do all kinds of really tough things just to survive. If at any point you die in a level, you have to start the whole level over, and many of the levels conclude with a particularly hard sequence, so your hard-fought 15 minutes will invariably all go to waste, at least on a few occasions before you finish each stage. This all contributes to how difficult Shinobi is. It's, even if you've been playing games all your life and fancy yourself pretty good at them, this one's going to kick your butt, but you might enjoy that about it. One problem with the difficulty is that the camera controls can often get in the way. Though you have a button that automatically centers the camera behind Hotsuma and you can manually move the camera around yourself, it kind of wigs out when you get next to walls or in other situations like that, and that can make life difficult. It can be hard to know where all your enemies are coming from and things like that. But the good news is you can get past this problem and just really appreciate the game for what it does, just for being kind of this fast, intense action game that's really hard, but rewards kind of continuous play and skill. There's some hidden extras that can be unlocked. The game ranks you based on your performance in each level, and as mentioned, it's possible to kill the bosses in a single hit if you're really good. So there are cool things like this to help the game's replay value, and it's not a short game to begin with, partly because it's so hard. Visually speaking, some aspects of Shinobi look great, whereas other aspects don't look as good. As mentioned, some of the levels look kind of bland. They just look pretty simple. On the other hand, Hotsuma himself looks great. It's a really stylish character design that seems like a throwback to Hanzo from the Samurai Showdown game. What with Hotsuma's futuristic black armor and flowing red scarf. All of his moves and attacks are animated really fluidly, and he generally looks much better than all other characters in the game. The game also runs at an almost consistently smooth frame rate. It's nice and fast pretty much the whole time, and that helps the gameplay quite a bit, since this is really a game about precise timing. And the game's music is really effective for the game. It's kind of fast-paced. It has lots of kind of Japanese woodwind instruments and percussion, but also has some synthesized instruments thrown in just to help make it all seem kind of more video gamey and maybe almost like a throwback to some of the classics. The rest of the sounds are solid too. And the game also supports options for either Japanese or English voice acting, both of which sound great, actually. The English voice work is quite well done.
Brother, I thank you for all that you have taught me until this day.
It is time for us to part, Hotsuma.
But all in all, Shinobi really isn't a game about spectacle. It's just a game about the gameplay. It really is kind of an old-school game in that regard. Shinobi can be recommended to anyone who's looking for a really challenging kind of ninja action game. So if that sounds like it's up your alley, then by all means check it out.